Good morning. It's Uncle Lou here. That's right. It is me, Uncle Lou, live on LouTube for you. Thanks for watching. Believe it or not, I am trying to make these videos a little shorter, so let's jump right into it. Welcome to the week 2 edition of the Your Season is Over video. Hashtag YSIO, the weekly point and laugh special. No, your season is over does not technically mean your season is over. The Your Season is Over video is a video about teams that lost yesterday. That's all it means. So if you're on this list, look at Georgia Tech crooked ass helmet. That's actually, you know what, we're just going to leave it like that. All Your Season is Over video means that your team lost yesterday. That's literally it. Okay. A lot of these teams that lost yesterday or even last week or whatever, technically could still make the playoffs. Now we can argue whether or not we think they're good enough to make the playoffs, but teams with a non-con loss or teams with only one non-con loss, potentially 2 conference losses even, mathematically, yes, you're still allowed for the playoffs and whatever. So your season's not over. It's just an analogy. We'll still get 100 comments to say such and such season's not over. This guy didn't know what he's talking about. Okay. Here's the order of events. For today's video, we're bringing back the Josh Pate special. It was a big hit last week and honestly pretty accurate. But that's easy to do for me. Here we go. We're going to do, of course, the teams that lost. We will talk about that. The teams that won but looked good. The teams that won that did look so good. And there's a lot of those. Some teams struggled yesterday against teams they had no business struggling against. We're going to talk about the best teams I saw play yesterday. Not who I think the best teams are for the season or should be ranked 1 and 2. Nothing like that. Just the best teams I saw yesterday. We're going to talk about the best wins yesterday, which is not always the same. I'll give you an example. I've got Vandy on here as one of the best wins yesterday. Why? Anytime Vandy wins, it's a best win. They beat Alcorn State 55-0. It's a nobody. It's an elementary school. I get it, but so is Vandy. 2-0 for Vandy. Shout out to them. I got the updated Heisman list. Remember, I give you 4 every single week. I got 4 again. The Josh Pate special and the We're Back top 4, which there's been some rearranging on there this week, thanks to Rudy. All right, who do you want to start with? You want to go in order? Should I pick them at random? Should I start with the bigger ones or go with a small? Let's start with Colorado. I love laughing at Colorado. I don't know why I took it off. I should just leave it up there. Let's just leave it up there. We're going to start with Colorado. They lost again, and absolutely 0 people on the face of the planet are surprised outside of a handful of Deion stands, of course. 28-10, they lost to Nebraska. This was a lopsided beatdown that is not indicated by the final score. For reasons unknown to me, Nebraska did not score in the second half. That's a Nebraska issue, by the way, that they've got to get cleaned up. Colorado's defense is horrific. Not scoring in the second half is inexcusable against a team like Colorado, but nevertheless, they were up 28-0 at halftime. They end up winning 28-10. Here you go. Shedeur Sanders, 23 of 38. Not great. 244 yards. That's an average day for a college quarterback in today's college football. Not great at all by any means. 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He had a QBR of 24. That's on the 0 to 100 scale. There are a couple of different QBR ratings out there. Some go above 100. I'm using the one off of ESPN. It goes to 100. He had a QBR of 24. Not a good day. Colorado had 16 yards rushing. Again, put in the category of no one is surprised. They don't even try to run the ball. It's absolutely pitiful. I'm going to talk more about that in a second. They had 14 carries all game by their running backs, and Shedeur was sacked 6 times, and it might as well have been 16. He was running for his life the entire game. Every Colorado point and laugh video we make on a Your Season is Over video, and there's going to be a bunch of them, are going to be basically the same. Colorado's offensive line is the worst in all of Power 5 football. I feel sorry for Shedeur. I went over all that last week. The offensive line is what it is. The inexcusable part is the coaching staff not knowing or not having the ability to adapt Colorado's offense around that obvious weakness. Shedeur is really good. 2 of those wide receivers are really good. Don't really know if the running backs are good or not, and it doesn't matter whether they are or not. They won't be a successful running team. You still have to run the ball. If you watched that game yesterday, it was so obvious that Nebraska knew what Colorado was going to do from a play call perspective. I'm not talking about in the way Connor Stallions knows, More on that in a little bit. Turns out Michigan's finding out how hard it is to play football when you don't know what play the other team is running. I'm not talking about Nebraska knowing specifically what play Colorado is running, but it's obvious when you watch that game that they know they're passing. Because that's all they do is pass. Nebraska was lining up a lot of times with 3 down linemen. Maybe they'd send a linebacker or 2, sometimes 4 down linemen. They were getting pressure on Shedeur with 3 down linemen, 4 down linemen, no blitz, with a blitz, linebacker blitz, defensive line stunt. Whatever they did resulted in pressure on Shedeur Sanders. He was literally running for his life yet again for the entirety of the game. Colorado's not going to beat anybody with a serious defense. That's obvious, especially a serious defensive front that can get after the quarterback. Colorado's only chance of beating teams is sort of playing the old school style Big 12 type of teams. Remember, I don't know, 8-10 years ago, almost everybody in we called it the track meet league, the Big 12. It was like every single game was 55-50, 45-52, stuff like that. Those are the only kinds of games Colorado has a chance of winning. Go back and watch the one against North Dakota State. It's a high scoring game where they managed to outscore the other team because the other team has a defense that's just as bad as Colorado's. And Colorado's is bad. It just is. Outside of Travis Hunter, they really don't have anything. I hope Shiloh Sanders is okay. He hurt his arm. I don't ever want to see anybody get injured. And just like with Shedeur, I don't like Shedeur. I don't like any of the off the field sort of social media, attention grabbing sort of TMZ stuff that goes on around the Colorado football program. That doesn't mean I want any player to get injured. That doesn't mean I don't think Travis Hunter is a great player or that Shedeur Sanders is a good player. I do. And Shedeur, I don't know. They said he got dinged. It wasn't a good look at the end of the game there for Shedeur. They took him out of the game with 2 minutes to go. Now, there was a hit. It was a head-to-head hit. He looked fine to me. I'm not a doctor. Anyway, Shedeur left the field with 2 minutes to go, walked off the field with 2 minutes to go. It was a bad look. If they were taking him back there to get him x-rayed or get a head scan or whatever, like, I don't want to downplay that. Like, if there was some concern that something was wrong, then 100% he should be, taken off the field into the locker room as soon as possible to get looked at. The problem is because of the sort of personality of the Colorado football team, when something like that happens, you're going to get the reaction that you're getting from a lot of people now, which is, Shedeur quit. The game was over, 2 minutes to go. They took him out. So, he took his ball and went home. He went in the locker room with 2 minutes to go. It would be real easy for me to get on here and reiterate that same thing. But again, there was a collision. There was some helmet contact there. Deion said after the game that he got dinged or whatever he called it, and we wanted to get him checked out. It's kind of like when you see these teams that are faking injuries. And I'm not saying that's what, I'm not at all saying that's what Shedeur was doing. I'm just making a point here. These teams where a defensive lineman will just fall down for no reason or something and pretend he's cramping because the offense is going at a hurry up speed or something and they're trying to maybe stop the game to get a substitution or whatever. How do you prove that? Well, you can't. You can't prove it. And that's why, that's what makes people so mad. Or like they need to start calling penalties on these teams that have players faking injuries. You can't prove that somebody's faking an injury. And here's the thing. You ever had a cramp? Cramps are debilitating for as long as they last, whether it's 30 seconds or 3 minutes. A cramp is completely debilitating. You can't do anything but fall down. And I've had them get a cramp in my foot or something, and I'm looking to jump out of a window. It's painful. So how do you can't prove that. You can't prove that a player's not cramping when he falls down. Now, you could say, well, it's pretty obvious that, that he was gassed and the offense was on a roll and they were running to hurry up and the defense didn't have no timeouts and we saw the coaches pointing to the ground. You can say all that, and I even agree with you a lot of the time. It's just something that can't be proven, so there's never going to be anything to penalize that. And so with Shedeur leaving the field early, who are we to say the guy wasn't seeing cobwebs or had his bell rung or whatever you want to call it? And I don't want to denigrate a player or put a player down for seeking medical attention when he needs it, if that's indeed what happened. However, I do agree that the personality and sort of the antics and stuff like that is what leads people to assume or to think that he just took his ball and went home. So he's kind of he's kind of swimming in a pool of his own poop and piss. I mean, you sort of you make your bed, you sleep in it deal. He's going to have to take sort of the jabs and the criticism that come along with sort of, his personality and the way he acts and stuff like that. But Colorado's a fucking disaster. They're not going to be any good. I still think Deion's leaving after this season. I want you to imagine in your head right now, Colorado next year, without Shedeur, without Travis Hunter, and 50 new players from the transfer portal, which is what Deion's going to do every single year that he's there. What do you think Colorado will look like next year under that scenario? I can't imagine Deion sticking around and coaching a Colorado team next year that is almost guaranteed to be worse than this year's team. And on top of that, none of his kids are on the team. I cannot see him sticking around to do that. If I'm wrong, I'll come on here, I'll eat my crow, I'll say I was wrong and Deion stuck around. I don't see it happening. I don't know what the reasoning will be. I don't know if he'll quit. I don't know if it'll be one of these announcements that's made where, Colorado Athletic Department and Deion Sanders have reached a mutual agreement to part way. I don't know. I have no idea what they'll tell us the reason is or whatever. But I have no confidence that Deion will be at Colorado next year. None. And if you're a Colorado fan and you want to have a successful football program year in and year out, and by successful, I don't mean making the playoffs and winning the Natty every year. I mean, if you want to be a relevant, legitimate football program in today's college football, winning, 7 or 8 plus games a year, bowl eligibility every year, competing for a conference title every so often, whatever. If you want to be North Carolina, if you want to be NC State, if you want to be Kansas State, which I think Colorado, that's kind of where I slot them in, then you got to get a coach who understands high school recruiting and will build that program from the inside out. You are never, I repeat, never going to build a college football program successfully over the long haul using Deion Sanders' approach. You may get lucky once every 4 or 5 years and strike gold 10 to 15 players in the transfer portal that are all elite, and you get them all at the same time and they all play and perform well, and you have a 10-plus win season. The next season, you're going to be this year's Florida State. That's just what's going to happen. The only way to sustain success in the world of college football is through high school recruiting. And again, for the 100th time, I'll remind you, Deion Sanders has been head coach at Colorado for almost 2 complete calendar years now, into his 2nd season. And he has been on 0 high school recruiting visits, not a single one. He doesn't have any interest in it. He's not a football coach. He's a team mom with a gold whistle. Shout out Colorado. You absolutely embarrassed yourself. All right, we started with Colorado. Let's get Iowa over with real quick. Iowa 20-19. They lost to Iowa State. I'm done. I complimented Iowa last week. I'm done with them this week. There you go. There's Iowa. We did Colorado. There's Iowa. We'll start from the bottom and work up so I don't get confused. I'm done with Iowa. I gave them the benefit of the doubt last week, 40-0 win. And I was like, never mind the points. Just watch how they play. Like, the offense looks a little different, looks a little better. I'm off of that. I'm done with that. Cade McNamara, Cade McNamara looks like he plays quarterback for last year's Nebraska. Boy, Nebraska had the worst quarterback situation on planet Earth last year. Just look at the Colorado game. We just talked about it. Last year, Nebraska turned the ball over 5 times against Colorado and got beat. This year, they beat Colorado. Why? Much better quarterback play. Shout out Dylan Raiola. We'll talk more about him in a second. But Iowa lost to Iowa State 20-19. Iowa State comes back, wins the game, last second field goal. This was just absolutely embarrassing. Cade McNamara. Now, this guy's been in college since fucking like 2015. Michigan for a while, but at Iowa, was hurt. Now he's the starter. 13 of 29. That's like 40% passing. I don't remember the last time I saw a QB with a 40% completion percentage in a game. 13 of 29 for 99 yards, no touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Iowa State's a good program. They're well coached. They're dollar store Utah. That's pretty good analogy there. Iowa State is Big Lots Utah. Okay, Utah can't compete with the big boys in terms of recruiting, budget, athletic facilities, none of that, right? But they're very well coached. They get the most out of the players they are able to get. They very rarely make mistakes. They don't commit a lot of penalties. And in return, they win a lot of games. Iowa State fits that same category, but everything is a little bit less at Iowa State. No excuse here. You lost 20-19. Again, 13 of 29, 99 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Iowa had 200 rushing. They were 200 rushing. Iowa State, what is this? Iowa State, 1 turnover. Iowa, 2. This is a theme today. Some of these teams that got upset or lost close games, Turnovers. I know people, it's like a cliche. Well, you can't turn the ball over. You can't turn the ball over. Clemson's helmet's still upside down. Clemson helmet's still upside down. Another turnover yesterday. Talk about that in a minute, I guess, if anyone cares. I don't know. But Iowa State had 272 passing yards. They only ran the ball for 89. But it doesn't matter. Iowa's got no offense again. If you're throwing for 99 yards in modern-day college football, unless you're a service academy running the triple option, then you got big problems. In Iowa, you got big problems. Your season is over, right along with Colorado. We'll see you next offseason. Who's next? Was this the most surprising result of the day? I don't even mean that they lost, but the score. Kentucky and South Carolina. I was wrong on this one. I picked Kentucky to win and to cover the 7 or 8 points, whatever it was, because South Carolina just looked so bad the week before against Old Dominion. And boy, you want to talk about bad quarterback play like Cade McNamara? Wait till you hear this shit from Kentucky. Kentucky lost 31-6. 31-6 at home to South Carolina. Kentucky plays Georgia next week. Is the spread out on that game? That spread's going to be 24 points, at least. Holy shit. 31-6. Listen to this, though. South Carolina only had 250 total yards of offense. I'm not on here to laugh at this. This isn't about making fun of South Carolina. This is to tell you how bad Kentucky is. They only allowed 250 yards of total offense the entire game and lost 31-6. How's that possible? Unbelievable. Brock Vandergriff. Oh, boy. Georgia dodged a bullet with this one. Now we know why Brock Vandergriff never sniffed the starting role at the University of Georgia in his 3 or 4 years there. Are you ready for this? Brock Vandergriff yesterday, 3 of 10. 3 of 10 against South Carolina. 30% completion percentage, 44 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, negative 30 yards rushing, and benched in the second half. It doesn't give me any pleasure to come on here and make fun of Brock Vandergriff, but holy moly. And I watched the game. It's not just that he's bad. He obviously is. 3 of 10 passing. It's hard to, you almost have to do that on purpose to be that bad. 3 of 10 passing. But when you watch him play, I don't know. He never looked like this at Georgia, even in the mop-up shit that he played. But so I don't know if this was a product of like having to learn a new system and new coordinators and new terminology and play, but I don't know. He looks lost, confused, doesn't know where to go with the ball, shuffling his feet in the pocket, looking like nervous, very unsure of himself. I know this is his first year starting, but this is a guy, remind you, this is a guy that's been in college for 4 years, and for 3 of those years, he practiced every single day against one of the best defenses in the country, and was within an injury away from probably starting last year. Had Carson Beck gone down last year, Brock Vandergriff was probably the guy that was going to come in. Now, there'd be some debate maybe amongst Georgia fans about whether it would have been Gunner, Stockton, or Brock, but Brock was always the next quarterback to cut in the fourth quarter. If we were blowing somebody out, Brock came in first, then Gunner. Make it out what you will. This guy's horrible. He's bad. He looked really, really bad. It was shocking to me to see him play that bad. Shocking to see him play that bad. Kentucky, I'm sorry, your season is over. That was one of the most embarrassing home losses by Kentucky in a long time. You know, they've gotten blown out by your Georgias or whatever else. And then, the next day you can go, well, Georgia's a top 5 team. Again, the purpose of this video is not to laugh at South Carolina, but I don't know how else to break this to you, Kentucky. South Carolina is not a top 5 team. They're not a top 25 team. They're probably not a bowl team. They're borderline bowl eligible team. This is really bad. I don't know what has happened. Kentucky has always kind of struggled quarterback, wide receiver, but they've had a really good running game, good lines of scrimmage, and played good defense. And look, defense played okay yesterday. You give up 250 total yards, that's acceptable. It's more than acceptable. Every single time I looked up at the TV, and I'm not going to pretend I watched every play. I watch a minimum of 3 games at a time. So it's not like I'm watching every play of every game. Every single time I looked up at that game and Kentucky had the ball, they were inside their own 15-yard line. I can't tell you how many times I saw Brock Vandagriff lined up at the goal line in a shotgun. The field position just never flipped, never went their way. They just never had a chance in this game. And one of the reasons they only gave up 250 total yards is because they were punting from their own end zone over and over again. So South Carolina's getting the ball in plus territory for half the game. That was one of the worst games I've seen Kentucky play in a long time. It was really bad and not a good time to have that with Georgia coming to town here pretty soon. But Kentucky, obviously your season is over. Should we do Arkansas next or should we do the barn? Let's go with Arkansas. For those of you that hung out during the noon streams yesterday, you already know what I think about this entire game and Arkansas in particular. Oklahoma State and Arkansas are 2 of the worst, most poorly coached, undisciplined teams I have seen, and the coaching staffs are borderline nervous hospital type retarded. The number of coaching blunders, it's almost criminal. The number of just obvious coaching mistakes that were made in this game. Unreal. Arkansas was out to a huge lead in the first half. And no thanks to Oklahoma State came all the way back and sent the game to overtime. That's on Arkansas. Arkansas, that was the worst coached second half of a game maybe that I've ever seen by Arkansas. And Oklahoma State didn't do any better. They were shooting themselves in the foot left and right too. This game was hard to watch. And usually you don't find yourself saying that about a game that ends 39-31 in double overtime. You have points scored in regulation. You had an exciting overtime period. It was close and went 2 overtimes. This was the most frustrating and aggravating game that I've watched in a long time. I almost gave myself a stroke. It was, I can't put into words why Arkansas didn't kick that field goal. Arkansas is tied with a couple of minutes to go or whatever it was. They're down on the 15-yard line and they go for it on 4th down. I'm like, what in the absolute fuck is going on here? And of course, they don't get it. Karma works that way. And Oklahoma State goes right down and punishes them there by winning in the end. Missed field goals in overtime. It was just a fucking comedy of errors, that Arkansas and Oklahoma State game. And here's the deal for Oklahoma State. Congratulations on the win. You remain undefeated. Your quarterback is horrendous, that Bowman. Bowman is terrible. Absolutely terrible. We'll talk about Arkansas in a minute too, but Jesus, these teams, man, I'm telling you, like Arkansas, let's not forget Arkansas won 122-0 last week. Let's not forget that. I told y'all about this shit last week with these bad teams that beat elementary schools by 70 and trying to read too much into it. Arkansas's quarterback was not good. This transfer from Boise, especially in the second half. But I'm not kidding. Oklahoma State, they're gonna ride Ollie Gordon into the ground. I'll be surprised if he makes it through the season. And again, just give me any pleasure to say that, but it's all they have. It's all they have. They know that's all they have, and they're riding them like a rented car. You rent a car before, right? You don't give a shit how you treat it. All gas, no brakes, slamming on the brakes, 100 miles an hour away from the red light. You don't give a shit how you treat it. Trash in the back seat. You don't care. It's not your car. It's a rental car. That's how they're treating Ollie Gordon. And it's sad. And Oklahoma State's got no defense. I picked Oklahoma State to win the Big 12. And maybe they will, but I don't see it now. Utah looks like the best team to me. We'll talk more about them in a little bit. But, man, it made me so mad. I don't like watching. I love college football. Georgia's my favorite team. That's 100% true. I'll never deny that. But I'm a college football fan, probably more than I'm a Georgia fan. If I had to pick one or the other, if I had to choose, here I'll put it this way. If I had to make a choice, and they said, Lou, you either can watch every Georgia game from now to the end of time and no other games, or you can watch every other game but no Georgia games. I would choose every other game. I'm a college football fan, and it makes me mad when I see ineptitude to the level that I saw it yesterday in this Oklahoma State-Arkansas game. These coaching staffs were having a pissing contest over who could be worse and who could lose. Neither team was trying to win. Both teams were trying to lose. Unfortunately for us, the viewer, one of them had to win, and that happened to be Arkansas State. Arkansas, your season is over. You've got one of the toughest schedules in the SEC. You're not very good. You can't play in elementary school every single week of the season and win 70-0 and trick your podunk fucking fans into thinking you're any good. So, woo pig dummy. Enjoy your 4-win season. Arkansas, your season is over. What are we going to do next? Georgia Tech. Oh, my God. Look, because Georgia's my favorite team, why is this thing, this bothering me that that's sitting crooked? I mean, it shouldn't. Everything about Georgia Tech is crooked. But there we go. Is that better? That's a little better. Georgia's my favorite team, so yeah, I have to hate Georgia Tech. But I'm going to be honest. I don't really think this is an embarrassing loss for Georgia Tech. Now, this is the point and laugh video. So, okay. Let's point and laugh. Haynes King, 29 of 39, 266 yards, a touchdown and no interceptions. Ran for 67 yards and 2 more touchdowns. Okay. He had 67 yards rushing. The rest of the team combined had 50. You need something besides Haynes King. Just like Arkansas can't play an elementary school every week, Georgia Tech, you don't get to beat up on Florida State every week. Eventually, you got to play other teams, and Syracuse put one on you yesterday. Now, here's where I don't really think it's an embarrassing loss. Georgia Tech's win over Florida State was big for Georgia Tech, right? But at the time, we didn't really know what that win meant in terms of how good or bad either team was. And that goes for a lot of week 0 in that case, or week 1 games, right? When you see 2 teams play for the first time, it's hard to tell. Take the Georgia-Clemson game last week. Clemson couldn't get a first down. Well, is that all because Clemson's offense is bad? Is it all because Georgia's defense is really good? Is it some kind of combination of the two? You don't really know until you see each team play again, maybe, right? And so, everybody was patting Georgia Tech on the back and telling them how happy they were for them that they got the big win over Georgia Tech. And then they started out slow the next week against Georgia State. But you write that off as kind of, a little bit of a hangover, traveling back from Ireland, celebrating the big win. And in the second half, they pulled away and beat Georgia State like they were supposed to. But the thing is, with yesterday's game, that we need to try to keep in mind, this isn't a huge upset. In fact, it's hardly an upset at all. Georgia Tech and Syracuse are probably 2 similar teams in terms of how they're going to finish the season. These are 2 teams that are likely to get to 6, 7 wins, maybe 8, if things break their way a little bit, right? Neither one of these teams are making the playoffs. Neither one of these teams are top 15. Georgia Tech cracked the top 25. They're likely going to fall right back out. Syracuse is now 2-0. What does that mean? How good are they? Look at the teams 20 through 25. How many of those teams do you think Syracuse would be? These are borderline top 25, top 30-ish type teams. Now, if you're Georgia Tech and for reasons unknown, you hopped your dumb ass on a plane and flew all the way from Atlanta to Syracuse, New York to watch your team get beat, well, then, yeah, you're probably mad and you probably feel a little stupid. You might be the first person that ever purposely visited Syracuse. Is that in Canada, by the way? Or is that in New York? I guess it's technically in New York, but anyway. Hey, look, Rec Talk. I gave you all kinds of props and digital hugs and everything else when you beat Florida State. You travel 2,000 miles, 1,000 miles, whatever it is, up to Syracuse for no reason at all to watch the nerds lose to the fruit. Well, Uncle Lou's here to tell you, I hate that for you, man. Breaks me up. Really does. Breaks me up. Have a safe trip home. Yeah. But Georgia Tech, your season's over. You got more losses coming. I mean, look, okay. Are there any Georgia Tech fans who after week 2, right, you've seen your team play twice, Florida State and Georgia State. Were there any Georgia Tech fans that were sitting at home going, maybe we can win the ACC? Were there? I don't think there were. In other words, I think you knew some losses were coming. Georgia Tech's got 4 or 5 games on their schedule that are in the Syracuse game category. Games that you might win by 7, you might lose by 7. How many games you win this year is going to be determined by how many of those 4 or 5 games you win. Right now, you lost one of them. Maybe you win the next 2, whatever. You got a ways to go. Brent Key is a good coach. He's clearly got you headed in the right direction versus where Jeff Collins was, had you at, which was circling the drain, waiting on Uncle Lou to come by with a plunger or whatever. But you're not among the big boys of college football. Not to say you can't get there eventually, but this loss shouldn't really be that surprising. These are the types of games that are going to go either way for Georgia Tech all year. It's just kind of what it is. And you lost this one, so your season is over. Auburn. I can't tell you how many arguments I had with Auburn fans over the offseason and after last week about Pate Thorne. And here's the thing. I've been as complimentary as I possibly can about Hugh Freeze, okay? I do not like it. Look, just like I tell you, I don't like Shador's antics and I don't like the stuff that happens beyond the football field, but he's still a pretty good, hell of a college quarterback. I've said the same things about Hugh Freeze. I don't like what happened with Hugh Freeze at Ole Miss, okay? I don't. No, I don't think anybody does. But was he a good football coach, just judging from that standard? Yes, clearly. And I've said, he's going to take Auburn to places Brian Harsin never would have. But it wasn't going to be this year. Why? He's got to have a quarterback. There are certain coaches and offensive schemes in the world of college football that are very quarterback dependent. Josh Heupel at Tennessee. Gus Malzahn, now at Central Florida, but previously at Auburn. I could go down the list, okay? Hugh Freeze is one of those guys. He's got to have his guy at quarterback that understands and can run his system in order for Auburn to reach their full potential in a given year, whatever that potential might be, right? Based on the other talent on the team. And they don't have that with Pate Thorne. They didn't have it last year. They're not going to have it this year. Pate Thorne's been in college football for 3 or 4 years. We all know who and what he is, and he's a below average, not very good college quarterback. I told you that all offseason while also complimenting Hugh Freeze. And, y'all argue with me. I'm an idiot. Pate Thorne this, year 2. You come out week 1, you play some elementary school, you put up 100 points. You come to my comment section to tell me I was wrong. Where are you at now? Where are you at now? Because you just got beat by one of the worst ACC teams, Cal, in a game where you struggled to get a first down with Pate Thorne as your quarterback. What did Pate Thorne do? Well, he was 14 of 27. That's about 52% for 165 yards. That in and of itself is terrible. 14 of 27 against Cal. 165 yards. That's not getting it done. But it doesn't end there. 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions. Cal might not have 4 interceptions the rest of the fucking year. Pate Thorne is bad, okay? Hugh Freeze, good. Pate Thorne, bad. Cam Coleman, good. Doesn't matter. Why? Pate Thorne, bad. That wide receiver y'all won't shut up about. Yeah, he's good. Got no quarterback, man. Come on. You lost at home to fucking Cal 21-14. And it really wasn't that close. Tried to claw your way back at the end. You lost 21-7. Scored a garbage point at the end. Fucking onside kick or whatever the fuck. Y'all are down bad, as the kids say. Okay? And this year, look, like Georgia Tech, this is how this year is going to go for you too. You're not beating anybody you're not supposed to beat. That ain't happening. That's just not. You're not beating Georgia. You're not beating Alabama. You're not beating whatever team you play from either Texas or Oklahoma. I can't remember your whole schedule. You'll beat a few of the bottom tier SEC teams. Some of the whatever SEC teams are ranked, 11 through 16 or whatever. You could beat some of those. All right. You're not beating Georgia. You're not beating Bama. You're not beating Missouri. You're not beating Ole Miss. You're not beating Tennessee. You're most likely not beating LSU. Florida, maybe. Mississippi State, probably. Vandy, maybe. South Carolina, maybe. Kentucky, maybe. But how many of those do you play? You're going to struggle to make a bowl game. 6, 7, 8 wins. 8 wins ceiling. Right? 8 wins ceiling. Peyton Thorne's not getting you where you want to go. Just look. Just because you hate me doesn't mean I don't know what I'm talking about. All right? Hugh Freeze went out, got a lot of other pieces, didn't get a quarterback. Why? He knows this ain't the year for Auburn. Hugh Freeze has been building towards year 3 since the minute he stepped foot in the door at Auburn. And he had a choice to make this offseason. Do we blow our load, NIL money, I'm talking about, on one of these quarterbacks so that we can win 8 or 9 games and still not do anything? Or do we go get 7 or 8 other players that will be here for multiple years and then next offseason strike a QB in the portal? And I think that's what the plan was. And I think this offseason they will go out and they will spend a king's ransom on a quarterback in the portal. Is that a guarantee it will work? No, it's not. You're going to have to, whatever quarterback you get, it's going to have to be a hit. It's going to have to be a quarterback that can run Hugh Freeze's offense in 1 year, that can learn it in one offseason and run it successfully in year 1 in order for Auburn to have what I would consider a successful season next year, year 3. Successful would mean competing for an SEC title in November. Like not necessarily making the SEC title game, but not having more than 2 or 3 losses by the time we get to November. So that when you start playing your games in November, you still have an outside shot at things like SEC titles, playoffs, whatever. And maybe you get that next year if the quarterback thing works. But it's not going to happen with Peyton Thorne. I told you that. Lots of other people told you that. People that are a lot smarter than you, like me, told you that. Yeah. So I guess keep typing the score from your week 1 game against an elementary school in the comment section and asking me what it means. It means the same thing it meant last week. Nothing. You played Cal. You couldn't get a first down. Congratulations. You wanted Peyton Thorne. Now you got him. All right. We got Notre Dame, Michigan, and NC State. Let's start with NC State. Not surprised NC State lost. I took Tennessee. I bet Tennessee and laid the points. The bets I made yesterday, I bet Tennessee minus the points against NC State. And what was the other? I took Nebraska minus the points against Colorado. So I hit both my primetime football bets last night. I did not expect NC State to get beat that bad. Tennessee played really good. Did they play perfect? No. Not by any means, but they beat the absolute soul and will live out of NC State. Here's some numbers. I know a lot of you watched that game, so I don't feel like I have to talk that much about it, but 51-10. 51-10. Now, NC State coming out of week 1 didn't look good. So I thought it would be a blowout. Again, I didn't think it would be 51-10. So that's credit to Tennessee. They kept their foot on the gas in this game. 51-10, they beat NC State. Grayson McCall. In order for NC State to have any chance to win at all, Grayson McCall was going to have to go off, and he just didn't do it. 15 of where did it go? 15 of 22 for 104 yards, no touchdowns and an interception. And NC State ran the ball for 39 yards. People are going to start waking up to the fact that Tennessee is not an air raid throwing team that has a quarterback and throws at 50. People are under the impression somehow still that Tennessee is Colorado with more talent. In other words, they just sling the ball around. They don't do that. Tennessee runs the ball and plays defense. That is what enables Nico, even Joe Milton last year when he had good plays, and Hendon Hooker the year before, to have the success that they have. That doesn't mean, I'm not saying that means those aren't good quarterbacks. They are. Nico's a great quarterback. Milton was just kind of okay. Hendon Hooker was great. They wouldn't have that success without the running game and the defense that Tennessee has been building over the last couple of years. But some people still have this perception of Tennessee as being a throw it all over the field type of team that can't play defense. I think a lot of people look at that Tennessee-Alabama game from 2 years ago where Tennessee won like 51-49 or whatever it was. And they just kind of assume that Tennessee wins every game that way. And they don't. They just don't. Dylan Sampson is one of the best running backs in the SEC. Now, I've got some concern about what's behind him. They don't have a great number 2. Just my opinion. Tennessee fans are going to get in the comment section and rattle off their entire roster. I'm just telling you my opinion. Y'all played great. You beat them way worse than I thought you did. Your defense and running game is amazing. I don't really know what you have behind Dylan Sampson, though. I'm just being honest with you there. But 51-10, told you about Grayson McCall, and then the NC State only had 39 rushing yards. Tennessee, 250 rushing. 250. You run for 250 games, you're going to have about a 90% win rate. I don't care who your quarterback is. I don't need to know anything else about your team. You tell me, outside of triple options, you give me an SEC team that runs for 250 a game, I'm going to say they won 9+ games. And 250 yesterday for Tennessee. Nico, 16 of 23. That's good. That's not great. Okay? All right, Tennessee's great. They're a top 10 team. Borderline top 5, in my opinion. I'll be updating my top 25 tomorrow. Tennessee will be moving up significantly. Okay? Tennessee's got a chance to win the SEC. They got a chance to make the playoffs. Remember, I predicted Tennessee to go 10-2, make the playoffs. They might go 11-1 and play in the SEC title game at this rate. So I'm very high on Tennessee. And that should matter to you more than what any one individual player does or what my opinion on any one individual player is. Nico was good yesterday. It was not great. The Heisman Trophy talk for Nico can calm down. In fact, it can end. First of all, very rarely, and I mean, I'd have to go back and hunt, does a player win the Heisman Trophy the first year that he's good? Never mind the first year that he plays. I know Nico's not a true freshman. He's a redshirt freshman. Look at Joe Burrow. Won in 2019 after starting all of 2018 at LSU. Last year, who won? I don't even remember who won the damn Heisman last year. That's how irrelevant. Jaden Daniels at LSU. Been at LSU for 2 years. Wins it in his 3rd year. Caleb Williams won it in his 2nd year. Anyway, you can go back through the list. It's very hard to win the Heisman. The Heisman Trophy has become the best quarterback on the best team who's been really good for 2 years. That's what it is. Nico's not winning the Heisman, okay? Maybe next year. Yeah. He's not winning the Heisman this year. That's just one of the reasons, his first year starting. But you're also not winning the Heisman against NC State, going 16 of 23. 16 of 23. But what am I looking at? 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He did have 65 rushing yards and another touchdown, and that's huge. If he can get 60 yards rushing and a touchdown every single game, that'll obviously pump his stats up and move him up the Heisman list and all that. And I think Nico's really, really good, and next year might be the best quarterback in the SEC. That's facts right there. He'll be running the Josh Heupel offense. He'll be his 3rd year at Tennessee, his 2nd year starting. He could go nuts next year from a stats perspective. He's not winning the Heisman this year. You don't need him to win the Heisman. You don't need him to win the Heisman. Look at the national championship winners. Michigan with J.J. McCarthy. A great defense, and they ran the ball. Does that sound familiar, Tennessee man? Look at the 2 national title winners before that. I'll give you a minute. Georgia. Amazing defense, great running game, Stetson Bennett. Tennessee hasn't won anything. I mean, nothing in 26 years. 26, okay? And I get that. You are desperate to win something. And there were years in the past where a Heisman Trophy could have been that something, right? That you could have hung your hat on because you didn't have a team that was capable of winning the conference or a national title. When I say they haven't won anything in 26 years, that they haven't won the SEC in 26 years, they haven't won a national title in 26 years. They haven't won a Heisman either, for that matter. So when in your mind for so long, you know you're not winning anything as a team, and you got to win the Heisman, got to win the Heisman. Tennessee can win a national title. And I can't believe I'm saying that out loud. Now, I'm not predicting them to win a national title this year, okay? But what more do they need? Depth, maybe at a few positions. You'd like to have a little bit more depth at a few positions, but they've got an elite defense. I still have a few questions about the secondary. Notice I didn't say concerns, just questions. I need to see them play well against a team that can throw the ball, and that team ain't NC State. But the front 7 is ridiculous, especially against the run. Pierce might be the best defensive player in the SEC. Dylan Sampson's one of the best running backs in the SEC. Offensive line could probably stand to improve a little. Or here, let's put it this way. If you're judging Tennessee and their chances to win a national title, and you're judging them against some of the potential title contenders, and you start with Georgia, do you think Tennessee's offensive line matches up with, like, do you think their offensive line is as good as Georgia's? It's probably not. It's good. It's really good. It's probably not quite as good as Georgia's. Do you think Tennessee's front seven is as good as Georgia's? Probably not. Now, the starting, like, seven for Georgia and for Tennessee are probably pretty close. Georgia can rotate players in maybe a little bit more. Kirby's further down the road in terms of recruitment and things like that than Heupel is, so maybe there's a little bit of an advantage there. In other words, you look around and there's no, like, obvious weaks. You know, you don't look at Tennessee and go, well, they're not winning a national title with that terrible ass wide receiver group they got. They're good enough in every area. There's a lot of teams, though, that are good enough in every area. The next step is putting it all together on a week-to-week basis, playing at your top week in and week out so that you don't have letdowns, which lead to losing to South Carolina 2 years ago at the end of the year for no reason, right? Or 2016, you beat Georgia and Florida, but then lost to, like, South Carolina and Vandy or something at the end of the year and didn't even win the East. Like, that's the step to take now. Tennessee in a one-off scenario can compete with anybody in the country. Anybody in the country. I don't think there's a team in the country that if that team played Tennessee 10 times, Tennessee would lose to them all 10 times. I don't think Tennessee would lose to Georgia 10 out of 10. Oh, I don't think they'd lose to Ohio State or Texas 10 out of 10. Bama, whatever team you want to name. Tennessee is good enough on a neutral field on a given day to beat anybody in the country. But Nico's not winning the Heisman. He's human. Okay, he can make mistakes. He's a first-year starter. NC State's probably about the 5th or 6th best defense he'll play this year. He's going to make more mistakes. He's probably going to cost you a game at some point this year. None of that stuff means Nico isn't any good. He's really good, and he'll be even better next year, and he'll probably be the favorite to win the Heisman next year. He's not winning it this year, okay? He's not the next coming of fill-in-the-blank, whatever, greatest quarterback of all time. He's a really good quarterback. He's a really good quarterback. He's almost as good as Carson Beck. But NC State, your season is over. Just like, yeah. And I'm done with it. Just like with Iowa's offense, I'm done with NC State. Well, this is the year we win more than 9 games or whatever. This is the year I'm so done with that with Dave Duren. NC State, they sleepwalk through every fucking season. You look up at the end of the year, they're sitting there at 8 wins with losses that you go, how the fuck did they lose that game? Blown out here, just not even competitive at all. I don't know. I'm off the NC State whatever hype train there was. I never really was on it. I didn't even pick them to play for the ACC title this year, but a lot of people did. And I'm just done with NC State altogether. Dave Duren, how's he Duren? I'm glad you asked. He's not doing good. All right, Michigan. Boy. Michigan's bad. Michigan's really bad. The fact that they can't run the ball is inexcusable, though. And that's what's going to take Michigan from being not good enough to repeat as national champions, which is what I thought. Most people thought they were. Most people had them in the top 10. Oh, they're going to be really good defense, be able to run the ball, but too much coaching turnover, and they lost J.J. McCarthy, and the quarterback situation's a mess. So they're not winning the national title this year, but we'll put them in the top 10. They're not a top 10 team. They can't run the ball. That's the issue. And they can't, but they're terrible, not that good against the pass, apparently, either, because Quinn Ewers went absolutely nuts on that defense yesterday. And this is point and laugh, and so that's what we're going to do with Michigan. But where are the Texas haters? Texas is a scary fucking team. Texas is a scary fucking team. Texas is a complete team. They got depth. They've got talent at every position group. They recruit in the top 5 every year, and then they plug with, 4 or 5 key portal players a year. Texas does it 100% right. Texas does it right. Georgia does it right. I think Bama does it right. I'm talking about mixing high school recruiting and portal and all that. Texas is a beast, people. Texas is going to be a tough out for anybody they play, including Georgia. Texas looked really, really good. But anyway, this is about Michigan. Michigan sucks. They lost 31-12 to Texas. They couldn't run the ball, and that's unexcusable. Warren, now the quarterback, I don't think he did terrible. A lot of people were expecting Warren to come out and fall on his face in this game, and I don't think he did that. So I will admit that the bar was set really low for him. But I think he exceeded that bar, at least in terms of his stat. 22 of 33 for 204 yards. Again, that ain't lighting the world on fire. It's about like Nico numbers there. Nothing great. But they just couldn't get anything going offensively. They ran for 82 yards. 82. Here's the thing. Michigan's got to be able to run the ball. It's like Georgia from 4 or 5 years ago. They just have to run because they can't throw. They got to be able to run the ball to give themselves any chance at all. And yesterday they couldn't do that. 82 yards rushing against Texas. If I just told you that one stat alone, that should be enough to tell you that Texas won the game. They completely dismantled Michigan at the Big House in Ann Arbor. This was a beatdown. 31-12. Texas was so much better in every area. Everything looks hard for Michigan too. Most teams, a lot of teams have like an area that they're really good in, and maybe they can throw it really good, but they struggle to run, or they're a great running team, but their quarterback ain't great. Third and longs are bad or something. There's just nothing that Michigan does really good. Nothing. And the drop off in 1 year is astounding. And I already see Michigan fans talking about, we lost 10 NFL. Florida State's doing this too. We lost 10 players to the NFL last year. We should have known it was going to be a rebuilding year. Georgia won the national title in 2021, had like 15 players drafted, and then won the national title again the next year. Shut the fuck up. Michigan recruits at an elite level. Those guys should be ready to play, and they're not. They're not. Nothing looks easy. Everything looks hard. They can't run the ball. They can't throw the ball. Their defense got torched and shredded all day long. Quinn Ewers, 246 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Texas ran the ball for 143 yards. 3 turnovers. Michigan had 3 turnovers. So just everything bad. Everything bad. And you know what? It turns out that when you don't know what play the other team is running, it makes football a lot harder to play. So, I don't know. Get Connor Stallions in disguise or whatever with the fucking spyglasses again, because my God, y'all looked bad. Real bad. Did not look like a playoff team to me. Did not look like a playoff team to me. Ohio State, this will be the year that Ohio State and Ryan Day finally get over that hump. They're going to beat you like you owe them money. And they're going to have no mercy. They're probably going to beat you worse than Texas. Not here to tell you that Ohio State is better than Texas, but that's a rivalry game where Ohio State has lost 3 in a row and caught a lot of shit for it. If they can beat you by 50, they will. They will not let off the gas. And I have a feeling that might be coming in your future, Michigan man, in addition to several other losses along the way. Y'all are not a top 15 team that is taking a slight step back from the 15-0 national championship version we saw last year. You're a terrible fucking team. You're terrible. No wonder they didn't give Sharon Moore a contract. Did he cry after yesterday's loss, or does he only do that after wins? Let me know in the comments down below, if you don't mind. All right, we only got 1 point and a half left, and it's Notre Dame. And I'm here to take back, when it comes to Notre Dame, I'm here to take back everything I said at the top of the video, which was that the your season is over video does not mean your season is over. It just means you lost yesterday, and you can still go on to win your conference, which earns you a spot in the playoffs or potentially get voted in with an at-large bid. None of that applies to this pile of hot fucking doo-doo right here. They're not getting anywhere near the playoffs. There is no such thing as a playoff team with a loss to Northern Illinois. It's not happening. And because you're too fucking scared and stuck in the past to join a conference, you've got no way to earn your way in. Think about it. It's impossible for Notre Dame to earn their way into the playoff. They have to be voted in. They have to be handpicked by a room full of athletic directors on the playoff committee at the end of the season. They cannot earn their way in because they're scared to death to join a fucking conference. So they go out yesterday and they lose to Northern Illinois, an FCS team, just an abysmal, one of the worst Notre Dame losses of all time. Not of the Marcus Freeman era, of all time. Marcus Freeman now has 2 non-Power 5 or Power 4 losses in 3 years at Notre Dame. He lost to Marshall 2 years ago this is even worse. This is way worse. Notre Dame fans, for the most part, are brain dead and stupid. And there's a variety of reasons for that. One of them is the average age is about 62, and they just don't have the mental faculties that they had when they were younger. Some of it is because they believe the old shit that their granddaddy told them about how great Notre Dame was during segregation, black and white TV. And they just can't wrap their head around the idea that Notre Dame is a shell of what they used to be. But that's what they are. That's what they are. They haven't won a major postseason game in over 30 years. 1992 was the last time Notre Dame won a major postseason game. They get handpicked to participate in major postseason games from time to time, and then they lose. They won't get that privilege this year of losing a major postseason game because they won't be anywhere near the postseason. You lost to Northern Illinois. Marcus Freeman's not a good coach, and here's another tough pill to swallow. Yeah, I know Brian Kelly lost the other day to Southern Cal. Brian Kelly can coach circles around Marcus Freeman. It's not even funny. You could blindfold Brian Kelly, and he's a better coach than Marcus Freeman. Marcus Freeman doesn't know what he's doing. Marcus Freeman doesn't know what he's doing. How is it possible that Notre Dame has gotten themselves in a situation where they got to go get a portal quarterback every year? What are you, fucking Kentucky? That's what you are. You're independent Kentucky. Oh, we got good lines of scrimmage every year. We're disciplined, and we can't get a high-end QB, so we got to go to the portal. What, for Brock Vandergriff and Riley Leonard? Holy shit, Riley Leonard is bad. Is his brain located in his ankle? Didn't he have an ankle injury last year? I don't like injuries. I'm not making fun of his injury. I'm asking, it was his brain and his ankle, because he appears to have some sort of a brain injury. Now, this guy's horrific. I told you that last week. More on that in a minute. Notre Dame lost 16-14 to Northern Illinois. Riley Leonard, 20 of 32 for 160 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions against a fucking FCS school. You only had 123 yards rushing. You had 280 yards of total offense against an FCS school. Northern Illinois was 190 rushing, 198 passing. Jesus Christ. No turnovers for Northern Illinois, of course. That's how you win these games. You don't turn the ball over. Northern Illinois's got 1.5 players that know what they're doing. Their quarterback and 1 running back, and you couldn't do shit about it. It wasn't a surprise. Everybody knew it. Look, this is like, Colorado, right? They know Nebraska's pass rushing on every play because Colorado's passing on every play. Colorado knows they're pass rushing. They still can't do anything about it. You couldn't do anything about those 2 players from Northern Illinois. Just absolutely embarrassing. Absolutely fucking embarrassing. And, you beat Texas A&M last week. Now, I'm going to give you some credit here. You were an underdog in that game for no reason. You're better than Texas A&M. Texas A&M is not any good. I told you that all offseason. I told you that the week leading up to the game. I told you that the morning of the game when I bet on you to win. I was like, this is ridiculous. The idea that Mike Elko was going to come into Texas A&M, rub some type of magic lamp and flip a switch and turn Texas A&M from a 7 or 8 win team into a team good enough to beat Notre Dame in year 1 was ridiculous. And it was never going to happen. Why? Because he used to be the DC there? No, Connor Wegman's not a good quarterback. They lost too much talent through the portal. And whatever Mike Elko is going to do there, from a positive standpoint, it's going to take a couple of years at least. So you beat Texas A&M, the 10th, 11th, 12th best team in the SEC. And then you lost to Northern Illinois. What does that say about Texas A&M? You're not making the playoffs. It's just that simple. You run the table, you're going to be 11-1 with a loss to an FCS team. There is no way, I mean no way, a playoff committee is putting in an 11-1 Notre Dame who was too scared to join a conference. Therefore, they avoided a 13th game, a potential second loss in a conference title game. They avoid that by not joining a conference. There's no way the playoff committee is going to look at Notre Dame and go, well, they beat 3 service academies and Southern Cal, lost to Northern Illinois, but we'll put them in over this 10-2 SEC team who didn't make the SEC title. It's not happening. Or this 10-2 or 9-3 Big Ten team. That's not happening. So in the case of Notre Dame, your season is literally over. You got nothing to play for. You can't win a conference title, and you're not making the playoffs. I'm dead serious. Unless they bring back segregation, black and white TV, and let you play the service academies twice each instead of once like you do now, you're not winning another national title. You're just not. They'd have to reinstitute segregation everywhere except Notre Dame. That'd be the only chance you'd have. The old days are the old days for a reason. You know, the last time Notre Dame was good, I used to walk to school uphill in the snow, barefooted, uphill both ways too. Yeah. You're an irrelevant program. You're an irrelevant program. I mean, that's what you are. Riley Leonard. Jesus. I had Notre Dame ranked 5th in my preseason poll, so I'm laughing at myself here, too. I bought in. I thought Riley Leonard was going to be good. Marcus Freeman ruined him. I don't understand how y'all lost this game yesterday. I don't get it. Brian Kelly's better than Marcus Freeman. It's just a fact. You learn to deal with it, accept it. You're going backwards. You're regressing. Where's all this wide receiver talent that I heard about for 2 years? Oh, Marcus Freeman's recruiting at a level that Brian Kelly never did. You can't look at the overall recruiting ranking, Lou. I know Brian Kelly's overall recruiting ranking at Notre Dame was better than Marcus Freeman's. You have to look at the specific and individual players and which position groups he's targeting. He's finally bringing in the elite wide receivers. Oh, yeah, where the fuck are they? Jeremiah Love's great at running back, but running back ain't never been the problem. Running back, tight end, offensive line, safety, and defensive line. You've had that for 25 fucking years, and you can't win anything. You're not winning anything now. Your season is, I'm not even joking. Your season is over. Fucking terrible. All right, there you go. Point and laugh. Your season is over week 2. Holy shit. All right, this is a long list. These teams won yesterday, but it didn't look good. And I've got serious concerns about every team on this list. Now, when I say serious concerns, these concerns are relative to the team and the fan base's expectations for that team, okay? Some of these teams are good, some are not good. That's not the point. The point is there was a certain level of expectation, and from what I saw yesterday, did not meet that level of expectation. Okay, and it's different for every team. Wisconsin beat South Dakota 27-13. What in the world has happened to Luke Fickell? This guy was at Cincinnati, Cinderella story, putting players in the NFL left and right, gets a shot in the Power 5 at Wisconsin, and he somehow made them worse. Wisconsin is a bad team, and they're still boring to watch. 27-13, not good. Not good. Arizona, after the show they put on last week with that quarterback and wide receiver, that wide receiver was on a milk carton this week, that McMillan. Arizona beat Northern Arizona 22-10. Don't tell me it's a rivalry game because it's Northern Arizona. This is like Georgia Tech playing Georgia State. Stop. You didn't look good. Kansas State beat Tulane 34-27. Tulane's not the same Tulane. They lost a lot. Coaching staff too, I think. The quarterback for Kansas State didn't have a good game. Dylan Edwards, transferred from Colorado. I thought he was going to be like the next Deuce Vaughn. I don't know what's going on. It didn't look good. Oklahoma State, I talked about them already. Oklahoma State and Arkansas are the worst coach teams on the I don't know what. I don't want to get back into that because I'm spending another 10 minutes on it. I don't think I'm going to watch another Arkansas or Oklahoma State game. It just makes me too fucking mad to watch teams shit themselves. But poor fucking coaching. God, those teams make me mad. Woo, pig dummy! Speaking of dummies, Oklahoma beat Houston 16-12. Yes. Well, Houston's a Power 5 team, woo. Yeah, the same Power 5 team that lost last week to UNLV 34-7. What Jackson Arnold? This game, fucking, what was the score? 16-12. It was 14-12 for fucking ever. Forever. 3 and out, punt. 3 and out, punt. 3 and out, punt. 3 and out, punt, punt, turnover, punt, turnover, punt. And then Oklahoma breaks out with a safety. It takes a 16-12 lead. Jackson Arnold, milk carton. I guess the Brent Venables defense played good against Houston, held them to 14 points. Bet you miss Dylan Gabriel and that offensive coordinator, don't you? Remember last year when you had a good offense? I do. Pepperidge Farm remembers, and so does Uncle Lou. Dylan Gabriel's better than Jackson Arnold. And the offensive coordinator that you ran out of town is better than the one you have now. Cry about it. Your offense is going to be a shell of what it was last year. Hey, don't you start SEC play soon? Don't you play Tennessee soon? How bad is Tennessee going to beat you? You might as well go ahead and tip that fucking wagon over now, fucking deadbeats. Oklahoma's a fucking reservation for white people. It is more Indian-owned land there than it is American. You know that? It's like 90% reservation. The white people are the ones that ain't allowed to leave their house there. Y'all are pitiful. Y'all are pitiful. 16-12 to Houston. Utah, 23-12 to Baylor. Should have been worse. This should have been worse. Baylor is not good. And even though I don't think this is a great win for Utah, I'm going to talk about Baylor. Dave Aranda's got to go. And I was wrong about Dave Aranda. I thought Dave Aranda would have success as a head coach at Baylor or wherever else. I even thought Florida should have hired him instead of Billy Napier. You know, when Florida was hiring last time, I said they ought to get Aranda. They went out and got Billy Napier. Well, turns out neither one of them's any good. But, boy, I was wrong on Dave Aranda. He's terrible. Baylor catches another L. But Utah should have beat them worse than 23-12. Penn State, 34-27 over Bowling Green. All right, I gave Penn State the benefit of the doubt last week when I talked about this game. I kind of saw this coming. I said Penn State had a big semi-rivalry win on the road in week 1 at West Virginia. It was a weird game with weather delays and all that. Now they got to come back home, play a noon kickoff game against a nobody, nothing team. No one will be watching, Bowling Green. And what happens? They started out slow just like I thought they would. I did not think they would still be losing in the third and fourth quarter, though. I thought they'd start out slow in the first quarter, maybe one of those deals where you see the score scroll across the bottom of your screen, you know, and it says like first quarter, Bowling Green 10, Penn State 3. Like that wouldn't have been surprising to me. And that happened, and that wasn't surprising to me. But then the second quarter came, and the third quarter, and the score, every time Bowling Green was winning. And I was like, okay, so we finally had to watch the end of it. And, you know, credit to Penn State. I guess they did hang on and find a way to win. But, boy, James Franklin had better figure something out. And the bad news is he's got to figure it out now in season. He's running out of time there. Do better. Oregon. I'm dropping Oregon probably somewhere 20-25. I'm sorry. I tell y'all all the time, preseason polls are guesses. Now, they're educated guesses based on what you know about a team, what's left from last year, what happened with the coaching staff, what sort of additions do they have, be it portal or recruiting, how does the schedule set up, whatever, right? You're looking at as much data as you can, and you're guessing, okay, Oregon's pretty talented. They were pretty good last year. They added these key pieces. We're going to rank them here. But it's purely a guess. You have got to be willing to shake things up in your top 25 the first 2, 3, really the first month of the season. And I did it last week. I dropped them from I think I had Oregon at 3. I dropped them to 8 or 9. I can't remember. Something. Pretty big drop for 1 week. They're dropping again. I'm going to have them somewhere 20-25. This isn't a fluke. Something is off. Something is wrong. Something's not working. Something's not connecting right. Something's wrong. It's painfully obvious at this point. Something is fucking wrong with Oregon. Is Boise State a good group of 5 team? Yes. In fact, they're like the original good group of 5 team from 20 years ago. Here's the problem. They're not that now. But Boise State has not been, in the last 5 years or so, what they were 15 and 20 years ago. Not that they've been bad, but they haven't been sort of the group of 5 boogeyman that they were in the late 2000s and early 2010s. They just haven't been. But, boy, they almost beat Oregon. Oregon had to come back to win the game. They won 37-34. Dylan Gabriel doesn't look great there. Why can't they run the ball? They've got NFL players everywhere. I mean, everywhere. Look, they're one of the 5 or 6 most talented teams in the country on paper. And I get it that talent alone doesn't win games. It takes coaching and cohesiveness and play call, everything that goes. I get that. But there is 0 reason a team as talented as that should have performances like they have had for 2 weeks in a row. You want to excuse the Idaho game? Oh, well, the team couldn't get up. It was an FCS, and, you know, they just, whatever. They couldn't get up for the game. Okay, this is a home game. Boise State, I get it, it's group of 5, but it's a big name. This was not good. This is very concerning. I've been picking Oregon to win, to beat Ohio State in the regular season since February. I can tell you right now, if they played this week, Ohio State would beat you by 30. I don't know what's going on there. Is it Dan Lanning? Is it possible that Dan Lanning is just a great talent accumulator? I don't know. I mean, you look at last year, they beat everybody they were supposed to beat, and they beat them by 100. And then they play Washington, a well-coached team, and what happened? They lose. They lost to him twice last year. He lost to him once the year before. Where's the signature win for Oregon? There's not one. I think I win over Utah or something, or Southern Cal might be their best win, whatever. I'm very concerned about what I'm seeing from Dan Lanning in Oregon. Very concerned, and I'm dropping them way down my rankings. There is nothing about Oregon other than looking at their roster that suggests they're a top 10 or a top 15 team. Nothing. Nothing about how they have played the first 2 weeks of the season screams we're a top 15 team. Nothing. Zero. Ranking you 20 is a gift to you at this point. Holy shit, y'all better get it together. Bama. Okay. The box score nerds. Bama won 42-16. Bama, this game was a one-possession game with 2 minutes to go. Bama scored 28 points in the last, 2 or 3 minutes of the game when South Florida was in desperation mode and had to start going for it on their own side of the field and all that kind of shit. South Florida gave Bama everything they could handle. Jalen Milroe, look, here's the difference. You want to know what the difference is between Nico and Jalen Milroe? Alabama fans say Milroe's winning the Heisman. Tennessee fans say Nico's winning the Heisman. They're both wrong. But at least Nico's a good quarterback. Jalen Milroe is not a good quarterback. He's not even a quarterback, man. What are we talking about? And when the only argument you have in defense of that is to tell me, oh, well, he beat Georgia. Yeah, he's better than Carden Beck. You sound like a fucking idiot. Gump. Not everybody, okay, I've explained this a million times. If Team A beats Team B, that does not mean that every player on Team A is better than every player on Team B. Doesn't mean every player on Team A is good. It means Team A beat Team B. Stetson Bennett's not better than Bryce Young. Stetson Bennett's got 2 natties. Bryce Young's got 0. Stetson Bennett was on a better team. Jalen Milroe's not a good quarterback. He's borderline bad. He's borderline bad. Scored 28 points in the last 2 minutes of the game. Congratulations, went 42-16. 2 years in a row, he struggled with South Florida. I don't know what kind of voodoo they have on you. Got no idea. I got no idea. But if there's an Alabama fan that watched that game and then afterwards went, yeah, we look good, you must be on a breathing machine. Y'all look horrible. Jalen Mildew. 12 rushes for 2 yards. He's dangerous with his legs, woo. $194 yards passing against South Florida. Fuck. Put him a statue right next to Nick Saban. They dedicated the field to Nick Saban before the game, and then Nick Saban had to sit around for 3.5 quarters and watch Kalen DeBoer fill up his depends. Damn. All right, these teams won and look good. We'll make this quick. Louisville. No one cares about them. No one talks about them. They don't get no credit. They don't get no respect. Nobody thinks they're winning the ACC. No one mentions them when they talk about playoff teams or ACC title teams. And all they do is just keep on blowing teams out, 49-14. Illinois beat Kansas. I almost put Kansas up here. I almost put Kansas up here. I don't know. I still feel wrong laughing at Kansas, especially in week 2, so I didn't do it. But not a good game by Kansas at all. Their quarterback, Jalen Daniels, was horrific, by the way. Absolutely horrific in that game. Where am I at? I lost my damn spot here. But Illinois did win, so shout out to them, I guess. Here it is for Jalen Daniels. 18 of 32 for 141 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Illinois only had 260 yards of total offense, but won the game. Kansas had 3 turnovers. That's why, again, back to the turnovers. You can't turn the ball over. So shout out to Illinois. They're undefeated, and Kansas is off everyone's radar yet again. LSU 44-21 over Nichols. Okay, great. I'll pat you on your head for that. Tennessee 51-10 over NC State. Obviously a good win there. Southern Cal 48-0 over Utah State. No letdown for Southern Cal. This was not a concern, but a question, right? Big primetime game against LSU on Labor Day weekend. Everybody was watching. They come out close, hard-fought game. They win a close one in the end. Turn around next week and handle business. I mean, yes, it's Utah State, but did what they're supposed to do. 48-0. Miami 56-9. I told you, nobody's going to pay any attention to Miami for about the next month. Their schedule is cake for about the next 3 or 4 weeks. And honestly, I think that's the best case scenario for Miami. Miami tends to wilt in the spotlight. It's happened a bunch of times over the last 20 years. They win something, people start talking. They win a game. People start talking about them. They start to get ranked highly. People start to talk about them potentially winning the ACC, blah, blah, blah. And what happens? They start losing games. Best thing for Miami to do is hide in shadows, and that's what they're going to do the next 3 or 4 weeks so they don't play anybody. Good on them. They won 56-9. Missouri 38-0. Ole Miss 52-3. Texas 31-12. Ohio State 56-0 over Western Michigan. Georgia 48-3 over Tennessee Tech. Syracuse 31-28 over Georgia Tech. Clemson 66-20 over App State. We'll talk about the upside down helmets in a minute. We got 3 of them. Clemson, Florida State, South Carolina. We'll see if we're able to flip any of them back the right way here in a minute. Where are we at? Clemson 66-20. Found the offense. There you go. Maffa only 15 touches, though. Takes Camp Pete down bad. Nebraska 28-10 over Colorado. Florida 45-7 over Samford. I think DJ Lagway set some freshman passing records in that game. Florida's still not a good team. Vandy 55-0 over Alcorn State. Arizona State 30-23 over Mississippi State. So some good wins there. That in the grand scheme of things don't mean anything at all. All right, moving on. Some of these parts at the end are becoming my favorite parts, more so than even the point and laugh parts. Best teams I saw play yesterday. I only got 2 today. Not a lot of great games yesterday in terms of like ranked matchups or opportunities for people to really prove something to me in terms of how good or bad they are. 2 best teams I saw play yesterday, Tennessee and Texas. Again, that doesn't mean I think Tennessee and Texas are the 2 best teams in the country. It means yesterday they were both super impressive. I think they were the best teams yesterday. The best wins I saw yesterday, and this is not the same thing. Nebraska, good win. These are the games Nebraska's been losing for the last 10 years. They probably should win this one, but they found a way to go out and blow it, and they didn't. They handled business. Nebraska's on the way to their first bowl game in almost a decade. What else do we got here? Texas. Obviously, a really good win for Texas over Michigan. South Carolina, a lot of heat on Shane Beamer after that performance last week against Old Dominion, including by South Carolina fans who appeared to have just had enough of his bullshit. He shut them up at least for 1 week. They whipped Kentucky bad in Lexington. Vandy, 55-0 over Alcorn State. I know it's Alcorn State. We don't like to give credit for those types of wins here, but this is fucking Vandy. Wow, 2 wins in a row for Vandy. Syracuse beat the Nerds, so shout out to the Fruit for that. And Clemson had a good win yesterday because they found a fucking offense. That's the good news. Bad news, they turned the ball over yet again. 17 games in a row? Is that what we're up to? Is it 17 games in a row Clemson has turned the ball over? That helmet ain't never getting turned back right, is it? Nope, not leave it alone. South Carolina, great win yesterday against Kentucky, 31-6. Holy shit. But you got sacked 3 times. And again, I don't make these rules. These rules come from fans of the teams whose helmet is upside down. So Clemson fans said, hey, leave the helmet upside down until we have a game without a turnover. That was almost a calendar year ago. It's still upside down. Last week, South Carolina man says, we get sacked at least 3 times every game. Turn our helmet over until we go a game without getting sacked 3 times. Well, you got sacked exactly 3. Stays upside down. And the last one, Florida State. They didn't have a chance to get their helmet flipped right today. They started off 0-2 this year. That's bad enough, but it was 2 conference losses. They're 0-2 in the ACC. Their helmet stays upside down until they win a conference game, until they win an ACC game. So none of the helmets getting flipped back right today. What a shame. You hate to see that. That's really sad. Breaks my heart. Dang. Heisman list. Here we go. If I had to vote on the Heisman today and they asked me to just turn in 4 names, these are in no particular order, okay? These are just the 4 people that would be on my list right now. Remember, I'm limiting myself to 4 a week. I think there's more than 4 players that could win the Heisman. That is obvious. I think there's 10 or so, 15 maybe right now, who could win the Heisman this year. It's really hard to limit this to 4. In fact, I wasn't even able to do it this week. I cheated. Carson Beck, 5 touchdowns yesterday in a nothing game against an elementary school that nobody watched, but he played great week 1 against Clemson in a big win. Quinn Ewers, unbelievable day yesterday against what I still think is a pretty good defense in Michigan. He's going to be at or near the top of everybody's list. Travis Hunter, I still think Travis Hunter's the best overall football player in the country. Eventually, he's going to fall off of this list. Nobody with more than 4 losses has won the Heisman in like 50 years. So once Colorado gets to 4 or 5 losses, I'll probably have to drop Travis Hunter off. Or if he gets hurt because Deion's playing him 120 snaps a game on both sides of the ball. And Cam Ward. Cam Ward, another big day. No one watched. Elementary thing, just like Carson Beck. But the week before, he went off too. So those are the 4. I'm cheating and putting Jackson Dart on here. Now, here's why he didn't crack the real top 4. Jackson Dart has looked as good as any of those players I named to start the season so far this year. Ole Miss has played 2 absolute nobodies. That doesn't mean I think Jackson Dart's going to be bad once they start playing good teams. Ole Miss is going to have a great offense. But I don't think it's fair to put Jackson Dart on a list with these people yet. Carson Beck has played and beat Clemson. Quinn Ewers has played and beat Michigan. Cam Ward has played and beat Florida. All of those teams are way better than anybody Ole Miss has played. Again, it doesn't mean that I think Jackson Dart doesn't deserve to be on the list. He probably does, and he probably will at some point. But that's the differentiating sort of mark I draw right now between Jackson Dart and the 4 that I actually have on the list. Josh Pate specials, got 2 of them today. You know what this is? Josh Pate will have his show on later tonight, and every team is good, every coach is good, every player is good. Losses just, losses are part of the plan, that whole deal. Notre Dame and Michigan. Josh Pate will spend an inordinate amount of time tonight on his show, patting on the head of the Michigan fan and the Notre Dame fan, telling them it's not the end of the world. Everything's fine. It's just 1 loss. Notre Dame can still go 11-1. They still got big games with whoever they're playing, Florida State and Southern Cal, and they can still prove they're a good team. And it's still going to be hard for the committee at the end of the day to leave out an 11-1 Notre Dame. But skipping over the fact that losing to Northern Illinois means you ain't going 11-1. I mean, you got a lot of loss. But this is what Josh Pate will tell them. Everything's fine. Don't worry about it. Riley Leonard had a bad day. It's hard to get up for these lower tier teams, blah, 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 blah. You're going to be fine. Everything's great. Never forget you had a TV contract in 1988 that mattered before anyone else did, and whatever, that kind of thing. Michigan, hey, look, no one can take your natty away. No one can take your natty away. You're still 15-0 and last year's national champion. Took one on the chin yesterday. Yeah, Texas, to beat you down. Texas is a really good team. No shame in losing to Texas. Lots of teams are going to lose to Texas this year. Michigan, it's no shame, no big deal. Don't hold your head. You got young quarterbacks that are inexperienced. They're going to get better. You got a defense that's good enough to keep you in most games. Most of your games are winnable. You look down the road, there's going to be start stacking up a lot of wins. And who knows? Oregon looks like they might be down. Penn State struggled yesterday against Bowling Green. Ohio State looks good. But even if you lose to Ohio State, you may get a rematch with them in the Big Ten title game. Or even if you don't, you can still make the playoffs at 10-2, 11-1. Everything is fine. Sharon Moore promises to only cry after big wins, not big losses, blah, 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 blah. So that's what Josh Pate will tell you about how great Notre Dame and Michigan are on his show tonight. The We're Back top 4. Boy, had to do some rearranging here. Number 1, top of the list. Remember, the We're Back teams. Here's the qualifications. These teams have to have not won a conference title, a playoff game, or a natty in at least 10 years. If they've done any of those things, they're not eligible for this list. People keep telling me to put Southern Cal on here. Southern Cal won the Pac-12 in, I think, 2017 or 18 something, so within the last 10 years. So they're not eligible to be on this list. People have been telling me to put Nebraska. Here's the other qualification to be on the list. You have to have a huge online fan base presence that is constantly telling everybody that you're back every year, right? We're back. This is the year. Oh, we're back. We beat a high school team 70-0. Auburn's back. That, okay? Nebraska doesn't have that. They don't have that. So those are two teams that just aren't eligible for the list. So these 4 teams are eligible, meaning they have big online fan bases. They have a big presence on the internet. And they tell you all the time, this is the year, we're back. This is the year we do it. We got the missing piece. Riley Leonard knows what he's doing. I promise, like that. Also, they can't have won anything in the last 10 years. And by anything, I mean they can't have won a conference title, a playoff game, or a national title. Number 1, and closest to actually being back, Miami. I still think they're the best of the bunch right now. Tied with Miami. Never done this before on the We're Back list. Tied with Miami at the number 1 spot. Tennessee. Very impressive win yesterday for Tennessee. Again, I think NC State was overrated. They looked bad the week before against Western Carolina. Grayson McCall is a Power 5 quarterback who should have stayed in the Power 5. And Dave Duren loses these games every single year. All of those things are true. But if you watch the game, then I think people, some people are finally starting to realize Tennessee is a dominant team defensively, especially the front 7, and they ground game is unreal with Dylan Sampson. Nico gets all the headlines and the hype. Tennessee's a defensive team that can run the ball. That's what they are, and they're a good one. I got both of them tied at number 1 on the We're Back list. Number 3 this week, Florida. Florida not in the basement after this week. They got a win yesterday against a nobody, and they're happy about DJ Lagway, so I decided to reward them by moving them up to number 3. Notre Dame in the 4th spot with an FCS loss to Northern Illinois. And the bad news for Notre Dame, they're the only team on this list that has absolutely 0 chance of getting off of it before next year. Now, Florida's not getting off of it before next year either. They're not good enough. But they still technically have a chance to. They don't have any conference losses. Florida could win the SEC and make the playoffs. Mathematically, yeah. I mean, we know that's not going to happen. But with Notre Dame, there's really nothing they can do. They're not in a conference. They can't win a conference championship and earn their way into the playoffs. So they're not winning a conference title. They're not even getting into the playoffs, never mind winning a playoff game. So therefore, they can't win a national title. So Notre Dame guaranteed to be on the We're Back list again next year. Tennessee and Miami? Let me ask you all this. Do you think there's over a 50% chance that one of those 2 teams makes the playoffs? I do. I think there's way over a 50% chance that one of those 2 teams makes it. I think there's about a 50% chance that both of them make it. I think Miami's got a better chance of making the playoffs than Tennessee. Doesn't mean I think Miami's better than Tennessee. I don't know who's better. That's not the point. Tennessee's got a tougher road to get there than Miami does. Tennessee's got games coming up on the road at Oklahoma, home against Alabama, on the road against Georgia. Some tough ones there. Miami's got Florida State and 6 or 7 other ACC teams that don't matter. So Miami's got a better chance of getting to the playoffs, but I think Tennessee's got a chance of getting there too. There you go. Your season's over week 2. What a great day of college football yesterday. Just an unbelievable day. Can't wait to do it again next week. Got some good games. That's the thing with these new conferences and expansion and all that. We're going to start. Conference play hadn't even started yet. Really, you've had a handful of conference games, but another couple of weeks, we're going to have, conference games every week. Boom, 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 boom. It's just great games every single week, meaningful, impactful games that affect conference races and playoff seeding and all that kind of thing. It's going to be an unbelievable year, both for college football and for the Sunday morning Your Season Is Over video. The only Sunday afternoon college football recap video that actually matters. Appreciate everybody watching. Hit the thumbs up. Subscribe to this channel if you're new. This is my second channel. 1 week a year, I post videos on my second channel to try to grow the second channel. This week, that week is this week. So probably going to stay on this channel through Tuesday night's call-in show, I think is going to be the plan. I think we started uploading on the second channel Thursday for the call-in show. So we'll go through maybe Tuesday or Wednesday of this week. So make sure you're subscribed. This is my second. Some of you might have found this video and you just think this is my main channel. I'm actually uploading on a second channel. So make sure you're subscribed here and enjoy what's left of your weekend. And hey, don't worry. Next week, we'll have a whole new list of teams. These deadbeated motherfuckers. Well, some of these deadbeats might be on here again next week. I don't know. Anyway, have a great day.